hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Right, today I'm joined by Chris and Hannah from the UK.
Hello.
Hi there, Hannah. Hi, Chris. We've both been talking to Santa surfing in Hawaii and to a number of the same people, but our energy is very much in the same place, that we're trying to take away people's fear and give them some comfort through a very difficult time. You know, in Spain, where we are right now, there's a lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of people short of money, a lot of people struggling to survive right now. But we're coming through a difficult period, but our job is to try and provide some comfort and some joy. And
some hope.
Happy that you're able to join us. Sorry, Hannah, go on.
And some hope.
And some hope, exactly.
Well, we're genuinely humbled to be invited. Thank you so much. I believe it was your fabulous right-hand man who also tracked me down, said, we'd love to know. Do you know who Charlie Ward is? I'm like, I actually thought of saying is the Pope Catholic, but then I realised that's not a great thing to use at the moment, is it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think what you said is my wife does a lot more. Cause,
yeah, we know you are.
Kind of keeping up with it.
Hannah's been down so many more rabbit holes than I have, that she's seen an awful lot of stuff from your guys stuff.
Well, the most important thing right now is when I started this journey, for me it started 6 years ago when I was told that they were going to collapse the world's economy. But they needed Donald Trump in power. And then they said 2 years ago, oh, now we've got Donald Trump in power and we've got Boris Johnson lined up to come in, and we've got the UK coming out of the EU, then we'll be ready to go. And then in December last year, I was told, right, we're ready to go. They're going to collapse the world's economy this year. That's all I was told. Right. So when people talk about conspiracy and fact, very clearly, I was told this, and it's happened.
Yeah.
So it's not a conspiracy; it's a fact. They've collapsed the world's economy. I just couldn't believe they could do it that simply with something that was not even as bad as man flu, which was the common cold.
Man flu, I love it.
I know.
It's interesting because we had been given some similar intel last year that something big was possibly coming out of China. It would be fairly destructive, and we were advised to prepare to grow some vegetables, to become self-sustainable, if possible, to work from home, if possible, which we both do already with different businesses, and to just put some things in place financially, if possible, you know. And it wasn't this is what's going to happen. It's just, this isn't forewarned is forearmed, right?
It was intel passed on by, actually, interesting enough, a trader, although not your average trader, a very spiritual man, a very interesting man who works very high up around the world, and he was sharing intel that he'd simply been shared. And so we were blessed to receive that. Of course, it's difficult to know exactly how to prepare for that, because, you know, as you probably thought, okay, crash the world economy, that sounds great. I realize that, you know, the dollar is under pressure. Is that what you're talking about? How are you actually going to do that? And you know what? It's funny, because I was on my morning run this morning, as I tried to be, not as many times as I'd like to be. And I was thinking about, you know, how people try and describe the butterfly effect. You may have heard it. They say, yeah, fly flaps its wing over somewhere over in the east, and then over in the west, a hurricane happens. Well, isn't that just what happened? Common cold was caught over in the east, and over in the west, a hurricane happened, a financial tornado. And the thing that clearly we have massively in common is that there's a background of talking about finance here. And with anything, you follow the money, yeah? So you watch the Thrive movement movie from years ago. That was all about following the money. Brilliant video. And simple fact is that those of us who know that the world economy, literally, when it melts down, I mean, it literally impacts so many things because it's so connected. It is absolutely a meltdown. There is no reason whatsoever the markets should be where they are, but they are. And this is very interesting. I'm delighted to be here, and I can't wait to start unpicking some of this stuff.
You made two massive points there and made them as if they were just little things, and they're huge. One was being self-sufficient and growing your own vegetables. First of all, your own vegetables won't be chemically enhanced. They'll build up your immune system. So when a virus does actually come, you'll be ready for it.
Yep.
I haven't had a cold for 15 years because my immune system is built up. And the other thing is, put a little bit of money aside. Don't be dependent on the banks.
Right.
They're two massive points. Massive points. If we could get hold of that, stop being dependent on the banks. Look, my father always told me, old school thing, never borrow money. Never borrow money.
Yeah.
And I've only ever bought what I can afford to buy. I've never ever borrowed money. And yet I arrive in England, I love my daughter to death. Cars on finance, houses on finance, everything's on finance.
Yep.
And I remember the day when I was looking at, I think it was Kay's catalogue or Grattan's catalogue.
Oh, those are the
My
days.
pants and socks at £1 a week. And I was like, are you for real? They're programming your mind there.
Yeah. Well, they're programming it for debt.
Well, that is the consumer model that we were sold. Since the Second World War. That was the entire plan of part of the Marshall Plan that came out of that. And obviously, they put little boxes in the corners of our rooms, which controlled us.
Yeah.
And it's a story I've told a few times, but obviously, most people on the planet, in pretty much every different language, have heard of the series Friends. Yes.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody who's watched it would know that it's rare that anything of profundity, anything profound, comes out of the mouth of Joey. Yes. Yeah. However, if you recall, they were at a conference where Ross was the superstar because it was a paleontology conference.
Barbados.
And they're in the reception of this hotel, and people are coming up to Ross. All the very attractive women are coming up to Ross, going, "You're a hero, you're a hero." And for Joey, this is all, of course, out of his comfort zone. Yeah, he's like, "What?" So he taps this woman on the shoulder and says, "Hey, Joey Tribbiani, you've probably seen me on Days of Our Lives." And she turns to him and she says, "I don't have a TV." So the look on Joey's face is, I don't know what to do with this comment, right?
Yeah.
So he comes out with what I genuinely know to be a line that most people would just have missed, but is completely and utterly how we've been controlled. And that is, he says, "What do you point your furniture at?"
Wow, yeah.
It's a big one, isn't it?
And we designed our houses around it, and then they started designing pubs around it.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't have a TV. So for the house we moved into now, that we rent, we couldn't really put the TV up when we moved in, and it was one of the hottest days of the year in June 3 years ago, and we just said, look, let's not put this up, let's just leave it for a couple of days. What we also realized is my kids were sort of late teens by this point, on their gadgets. They weren't interacting with us. They weren't fighting over the remote control anymore because they were on their gadgets, on their laptops, on their phones. So we just said, look, let's just try a month, see how it goes. Everything that we try is baby steps. Let's just do it for a short time, because if you try to make a big change and say, right, I'm never doing this again, you disappoint yourself very quickly, because we are very weak as human beings.
We are.
Staying and sticking to our will. Yeah. So we just said, let's try a week, and then that was okay, and then let's see if we can do a month. And at the end of the month, we hadn't missed anything at all. We hadn't watched Dead Enders and coronation nonsense.
Yeah.
And when I see people that watch those programs, their lives are full of that drama. Correct. They've got massive, great big relationship problems. They've got massive, great big just stuff that's in those programs. It's like it goes between them. It's programs, programming. And so we just, what I found is that we were much more productive.
Yeah.
We were much more informed. We were looking for the information that we want to watch. So if we wanted to watch a documentary like Thrive, for example, we watched that and that alone. And then we didn't just skip and go, oh, let's watch this now, and have this sort of apathy to whatever's just chucked at us. And it helped us to really tune into what's going on in the world right now. It made us look at documentaries, look at our health, look at what we're reading, look at what we're drinking, eating, saying, doing. Every aspect of our lives, was suddenly changed.
You feel a lot happier.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. I was disappointed yesterday. I watched 2 things on television, and I come off feeling absolutely shit.
Wow.
One was the FA Cup final.
I was going to say, I knew you were going to say that.
A political stunt like I've never seen before. And then the qualifying for the Grand Prix, another political stunt.
Right. So it leaves you with this dreadful feeling.
Oh, wow. Explain how that was a political. I want to know what. Explain the political stunt.
Well, first of all, you're talking about Lewis Hamilton talking about Black Lives Matter. First of all, Black Lives Matter as a foundation was set up by the Clinton Foundation and George Soros.
Yeah.
I was completely unaware that any of them were black, completely oblivious to the fact they were black. And I was completely oblivious to the fact that all the money that goes into it actually comes out the other end of the Joe Biden campaign.
Right.
And I was unaware he was black.
Okay.
So it actually goes to Black Lives. It goes to Black Lives. But they're using the Black Lives vehicle and everybody's jumped on the bandwagon.
And what's that got to do with motor racing?
Absolutely nothing.
Right.
Lewis Hamilton's the fastest one. Fastest person happens to be half black. And they chase him around. But for years we had that with Tiger Woods chasing him around the field as a golfer. You know, racing.
And this is where the infiltration happens, isn't it? Those little, you know, that totalitarian tiptoe of let's just keep talking about it until it's normal. And that's got nothing to do with what a fantastic race driver he is.
Exactly.
You know, absolutely nothing.
I'm on board with both of you on that argument. Take us through the FA Cup final. I'm fascinated.
Well, even that. First of all, you know, they've got Black Lives Matter sticker on the shirt.
Right.
They take the knee for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is all about politics.
Yeah.
And then you look at why there's no crowd there. You're allowed to protest by the million, if you like, but you're not allowed to go to the football.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
That's lunacy.
So for me, when they started playing football again, I'm a massive football fan. I'm very, very sadly a West Ham fan. It's been a tough life. Okay. With some very brilliant moments, but not many. Okay. So when they first put it back on TV, I was all excited, as everybody was. Well, excited is a little bit because I think there are more important things. But when I first saw that stadium and they were running around off football and there were no fans, I'm like, I can't watch this.
No,
I can't watch it. And Hannah pointed out that there was some crowd noise. I'm like, I
kept saying they're piping in the noise, and he went "Dip daft," and then of course they were coming to a goal. A goal was clearly gonna maybe happen, and suddenly that cheering got louder, and I was like, "Can you not hear this?" You know, it's that moment when you're trying to show somebody some information, and they are going, "No, you're a conspiracy theorist. That can't be right." This is what was happening in our house. I was saying, "Chris, listen to this. This is what's happening." And then he got it. It was like, "Oh my God!" And then it ruined football for him.
Yeah. So I can about listen to it on the radio, but then that leads into your favourite film at the moment you're talking about, and it's the fact they're controlling through TV. 1984.
Oh yes, 1984. Yes. Do you know what? I had heard about the film and the book years and years ago. You know, 1984, and how they're controlling what we're watching and what we're seeing. And about maybe 6 months ago, we decided to get the film. You know, paid for it on Amazon or something. I don't know, and watched it. And if any of your viewers have not watched it, it's dark. You've got to be in the right space to watch this film, because it's dark in the view of it. It's very grey and very dark, but it's also dark in the matter of what's in it. And there's one of the opening scenes where they're all in their little booths, right? Their little booths sort of facing each other, a bit like they do on, you know, first class on a plane. They sort of sat opposite each other, and this guy is cutting out a piece of the newspaper because they're talking about the chocolate rations, and he then plasters back in or pastes back in. I mean, you would just copy and paste it on a computer now, but he was cutting it out and sticking it back in. The good news about the chocolate, that then that paper would go out and the public would read that there's chocolate available when there actually really wasn't. And that's what this was like. It's like, we're going to tell you that there's people here, but there aren't people here. And that's what's happening with the media right now. We're going to tell you this. I mean, we all know that lots of peaceful, lovely protesting happened yesterday. And I'm like, yes, go for it, guys. Yeah. Happened all around the world yesterday. And it has barely been touched on the media, because they don't want to give us that power to go, to all the people like us who would go, right, let's get out there, let's do it. And I don't know why we are all, as David Icke says, acquiescing, you know, so much when we know deep in our hearts that this is all wrong. We know it, we feel it.
Yeah.
So, and it's because of films like 1984. I mean, we know all of this social programming has been happening to us for years and years and years. And we are starting to wake up and realise that, hang on a minute, this isn't quite right. This isn't what I've been told. I mean, I heard information this week about the world and the mountains and the trees that rocked my world, literally rocked. And you go, okay, so everything I've been told about the history of the world and the trees and the geology and the evolution is like completely different from what we've been taught in school. And it's like, yes, that's because somebody cut something out and went, we're going to tell you this and you will believe it.
And okay, so to back that up, just to kind of go back to the football, because I think it's really important, is that we are that is evidence that we are in the middle of a dystopian film.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that in the 1970s, West Ham had a fabulous run up to the European Cup Winners' Cup final at Wembley, lost to Anderlecht 4-2. During that period, there was some sort of crowd violence, and they had to go and play in Eastern Europe. I think it was East Germany, in front of a crowd that there was no crowd. Okay, I think it'd been West Ham travelling fans. Therefore, their next game away was behind closed doors, and therefore, I'm literally going back to this is Eastern Europe. You know, there are checkpoints at the gate, etc. That game of football that I'm watching yesterday, bits of it, any other game of football that we're seeing, that's what it reminds me of. And the thing about a dystopian novel is that, of course, George Orwell wrote it in 1948. I mean, that's
and then it's 1984.
And how quickly things have changed. And he literally predicted everything. But the great thing is, for the powers that be, is that in those novels, they give you all the little bits that prove that you can control these people. So, for example, if you actually asked 100 people, where did the term Big Brother come from? Would they know that it came out of that novel?
It was not
Probably
Channel 4.
one of those. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And so we've been led to believe the sound of Big Brother is fine because you just watch them asleep at night doing shag all. Okay.
But of course, what's Big Brother in your house right now? It's that little black box called a lady's name. I try not to say it. We don't have one in our house because there's one in our computer.
I did videos a couple of years ago about everybody get together, pick up your Alexas, smash them with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. Because that is, you know, very soon that will be saying, stay in your house, do not leave your house.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realise that while you have something that can order you 10,000 packets of Haribos by accident because your child put 10 instead of, or 10,000 instead of 10, which is what's actually happening around the world. You suddenly get a delivery off eBay and go, how did this happen? Or Amazon suddenly turn out with 10,000 packets of Haribo. It's because that little box that's been put in our house to make us go, oh, I can say play Queen or, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody, and we've got instant music.
Yeah.
Makes us go, oh, we've got this comfort and this nice thing. It's why there's a little chip in your dog so that if you lose it, oh, guess what? You can find your dog. It's like all of these things are just put there to make us go, oh, we need this in our life. Oh, we need this solution. Oh, because it's good. But that fine line of it tipping over to, we can control the stuff that's going on in these houses, saying, don't go out, don't do this, don't do that. Otherwise, you're reported to the police, because that's what's going to happen. And I don't think people really understand what's happening.
Well, I think that is happening in other countries, isn't it? You know, we haven't heard about it in this country.
If we look at the people that you and I know that are the happiest, they've detached themselves from all of that.
Yes, yes.
But my parents, when I mentioned to you earlier before we went on air that I was born and brought up in the Plymouth Brethren religion, which was a cult, and my parents used to tell us that the television, the reason we didn't have a television in the house is it was a pipeline of filth into the house. That was their terminology.
Right.
Now I look back and go, do you know what? You weren't.
Right. They had a point.
They had a point.
Right.
For all the things that I disagreed with them, certain things you look back and go, do you know what? You have a very valid point there.
And the word television is tell, lie, vision.
That's right.
It's telling us lies to our vision.
That's right.
And, you know, they are programming. When we turn on the TV, there is a program. They are programming us, you know. And so stepping away from those things, of course, takes courage as well. I mean, especially for families who have young children who want to just turn it on and have Disney piped in all day long.
Yeah.
It's difficult to separate that, because we want to, you know, have our children feel comforted, and that, you know, we don't want to melt down, we don't want to freak out. But so to step away from that, I mean, I'm glad our children were kind of away from that, because I think parents and families would find that very difficult. But when you do remove yourselves from those, what happens, and I think we've seen it more so in this lockdown, is that we become creative, and we are creative beings. You know, when we are born, we're given the nurture and the nature, and we, as little tiny human beings, become creative, because we go, I can see that red toy over there and I want it. How am I going to get from here to here? I need to think and learn and do something creative. I have to move. Oh, guess what? That works. And so from the minute we're born, we're creative human beings. And of course, that's then stifled throughout all of our schooling, because we're told to sit in a chair and don't move and don't talk unless you're spoken to. So we stifle our creativity. And what I've seen in lockdown is more families embracing that creativity, because they weren't sitting in front of the square thing in the room. They weren't, I mean, some parents were saying, how do I homeschool? And I'm saying, leave it, ditch it. You don't need it. You know, your kids are going to learn far more from going on a walk in the woods and smelling the wood and touching the leaves and looking at the moss and the lichen on the floor and, you know, all the birds and the bees and the butterflies around them. They are going to learn more about the cycle of life and biology than they will sitting in a classroom. And if you continue to do that through all the seasons, they will see that full circle. And then when you come in your house and take them into the kitchen and give them some flour and some eggs and some butter and some sugar, and they make some biscuits, they're learning maths, they're learning science, they're learning physics and chemistry. They don't need school for all of that. They have all of this stuff in their houses. So what I've seen is a huge move to massive creativity by not staring at those boxes. And you know, people, I'm a creative artist, and I've had people asking me for tips. And I've got a mother in our village who just spent 2 days ago with her 4 boys painting, did little videos, and then sent them to me saying, you inspired us to do this. And I'm like, fabulous, you know. And that's where the hope comes in.
Got nothing to do with money, has it? It's all
nothing to do with money. Absolutely nothing.
Love and time.
Yeah,
right.
And those children are learning some new skills. They are again learning about science and biology and chemistry and all of those things in that process. It's wonderful.
I think it's very important to remember that people have had it tough, though.
Yeah.
Totally.
And whilst none of us want to dwell on that negativity, I think it's very important that we shouldn't, you know, in any way, shape, or form, ever come across as, well, we're happy, what's wrong with you? Because we all understand. And I know you feel the same way, Charlotte, that, you know, people have been locked into small spaces relationships which are incredibly dangerous, you know, maybe even fatally dangerous. You know, people have been locked into situations where they have no green space to go anywhere near. And, you know, this is the obscenity against humanity that this has been. And my message for you know, I genuinely, I tell you, actually, I want to go back just a little bit. So John Mappin picked us up, Santa picked me up, then THA, great guy, did a really good interview on THA. Then Spiritually Raw, and then a really great guy, not that any of them aren't great guys, Revolution Network, who had Sasha Stone on yesterday. So that was an amazing hour. Okay, so all these things came to me. And the day after John Mappin put online our interview, he then did a video with The Secret Covenant in. I'd never seen it. I watched it, and for 2-3 days, it went around my mind, and I was basically asking questions: should I be doing something with this? And I got a message that I should be doing something. So I did it in 2-minute slots on my page. The response was absolutely extraordinary, because I read this thing, which is basically the cult's covenant for what they are doing, what they were going to do, but what they are doing, and how we got here. And all I could do was take it to pieces and make it positive. Because it finished with the Achilles heel. They must never find this out. Well, you know, because if they find it out, we will have nowhere to run and all this stuff. And the amazing thing about this control thing is they sent us home to sit on our backsides for the best part of 4 months, thinking we'd be more controlled. However, an awful lot more people than they ever believed woke up and began to see the cracks.
Yeah.
And that's the extraordinary thing. And that's why guys like you are playing such a massive role. Honestly, I'm lazy compared. I just turned up and talked on 6 different platforms. You guys are doing all the hard work.
And that started because you did a video basically saying I was wrong about Trump. You know, Chris and I both lived and worked in America. So for us, America is our second home, really.
Okay.
Chris on the West Coast, me on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know we could get off an airplane and know exactly where we're going, both of us. And yet for me, it's been, you know, nearly 30 years since I was been there working, believe it or not. And so for us, the stuff that's going on over there, as we know, everything that happens over in America has a direct effect to the rest of the world. Even though we call ourselves Great Britain, we're really not that great right now.
No.
And, you know, there's parts of me that are just absolutely ashamed of, you know, the way we're behaving as a people. But you know, we were watching what was happening in America, and we were seeing things. And for both of us, you know, when Trump came into power, it was like a sledgehammer over our heads of negativity. I mean, really, really difficult.
He was
for us to
vilified
watch.
by everybody, wasn't he?
Yep.
And we know now that the media is responsible for that. You know, it's not our fault. It really isn't our fault.
No, it's not.
We've been duped into this negative pattern, and it happens with politics in this country. We go, oh, this person and that person, and the media goes, well, this person's that and this person's that.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you actually meet that person yourself and have an eye-to-eyeball conversation with them, you do not know what that person's like just because of what the media says. And this is why you know, situations like the Caroline Flack situation earlier on in the year, where unless you know that person, you know, and she took her life and moved out of this world because of what people were doing and saying to her. That is the fragility of the internet and online stuff. So when we were seeing some of these things changing over the last couple of months and into last year as well, that was starting to change our viewpoint of Donald Trump. It was really quite alarming for both of us that, hang on a minute, we were wrong. So when Chris did this video, what happened was
in fairness, Hannah got to it much quicker than I did.
Well, in terms of the information.
I was still walking around going, I respect the man as a businessman. I do not think he's an idiot. You cannot make the money you've made in the Manhattan property industry, etc. All the things he's done. So you got there much quicker than I did.
I did, and I would also, to be fair, Chris is not on Facebook, and so he's not got that content and that constant stream of people sending you videos and stuff. But I'm in several different groups, messenger groups and physical groups on Facebook. And somebody sent me, it went into the group by somebody in the group that I don't know, and all the other people in that group, I know them. And if they had put this video in, they would have said to me, oh, look, I've seen this video of Chris, but they didn't. It was this girl. She just put the video in, and I looked at this video, I'm like, what's my husband doing in this video? So I opened it. I was outside. I opened it and I listened for 2 minutes, and he was saying I was wrong about Trump. And I came in, I went, why are you on Twitter? Like, what have you done this video for? And I had already messaged in the group saying, you do know this is my husband, right? And she was like,
because it's not my
no
name.
way, is that your husband? And it was just like, what happened in this 5 minutes? I don't know. And that was on the Saturday night you posted it. And then this was maybe the Sunday late morning. So really not even 24 hours. And I said, are you on Twitter? I kind of knew he was on Twitter, but I didn't know he was doing things like that. And you just said, yeah, I'm just replying to a few people. There's like 50 messages. And I went, no, there's like 1,500 on this, like, followers now and comments.
Good job you're not on Grindr.
And it just, oh my God, that's so funny. So he just, you just were like, really, what happened? And all of a sudden it just took off. Hey, he's mine.
What's Grindr?
Yeah. So it was just crazy because,
brilliant. Absolutely.
You know, a 2-minute video that just went viral just happened because of being able to stand up and say, I was wrong. And do you know what? That's, you know, some people that say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, what do you know? some people will have that moment in the coming months when they see stuff and they hear stuff that is really dark and painful. I'd really like to think that some of those people will then go, do you know what? I was wrong. You know, thank you for bringing that information to me.
That's my wife.
And it takes guts to say sorry. You know, I have all the time for somebody that can say, do you know what? Hands up, I was wrong, because it's hard to do that.
My wife was a Trump hater. She's a Muslim. I was born a Christian. She was born a Muslim. She's from Istanbul, Turkey. And she just didn't like him at all. Didn't like him because he made comments about Muslims.
Yeah.
And she was a Trump hater. And it's been a long journey for me. But then I just pointed out a couple of things to her. And I know that she's a mother. And I just pointed out, if any man, I don't care which man it is, stops one woman and child from being trafficked, makes them a good person.
Yes.
The fact he's done that to thousands has been overlooked massively by the mainstream.
Yeah. Well,
the media are not interested in that.
And it's coming, isn't it? I mean, we know it's coming. And that's why, for us, it's very important to share this message and share this hope that things are changing. We know people, you know people who are directly linked to what is happening, and it's very difficult to be on the tip of your tongue wanting to just say, look, please hang in there, it's going to be okay. And I think that's why it's important that we share these messages.
On this note, just in case you don't get a chance, I genuinely literally want to say to anybody who doesn't know this, please hang in there, because what we're going through right now, it is a dystopian novel, that's for sure, but the world is, and everything's an energy. And it's impossible for the negativity and the evil energy to not exist at the same time as something incredibly positive. And this is the only way I can only see the word pandemic becoming a pandemic of positivity, taking that word back, a pandemic of positivity, because there are some amazingly phenomenal things that most people just couldn't possibly believe. And when they do happen, they still probably won't believe them. But they are coming and they are unfolding. In fact, they're unstoppable. And that's the most extraordinary thing about this time we're living in. We have no idea how actually blessed we are to live through this. If you can just get through this, if it's financial, if it's health, if you can stay alive for the next few, maybe even weeks, okay, you just cannot believe what's coming. So my background is I work in humanitarian projects. I am a gatekeeper, a kind of a connector of all things humanitarian. I'd love to talk about that in a short, because what is on the horizon? I mean, it feels like on the horizon. It's just there. It's just here. It's happening. So if I can make that plea to anybody to just remain with hope, and it will come good. It genuinely will come good in a way that you genuinely won't be able to understand, because if things are really, really difficult, I know it's tough to see what's later today, what's tomorrow. And what comes through for me of this is this force, this negative and the positive force. They have to eventually balance out. And the positive force, as I'm sure you know all about, and you're going to talk about at some point, has been coming through for a very long time. And there are so many pieces of the jigsaw. You just have to connect the dots of what's been going on and see. When you finally see it, you'll just go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was controlled to that point. That was why I was driven to finally just say I was wrong about Trump and do that video. And so on this note, I just want to share one more thing about why this is so important, is that I want you to think about this, okay? Everybody on this planet knows that things happen they just don't know about. They just don't know about them, yeah? They couldn't possibly know about it. They know there's secret ops and there's, black forces and all these things happen. You eventually see a news story about, I don't know, an embassy was taken or something happened, etc. All of those things. So I have to tell you, why do you think it's impossible to believe that positive things happen in secret? Why do we all think things that are happening behind our backs are bad things?
That's a great point.
There are incredibly good things happening behind our backs, and they've been coming to fruition for a very long time. And no, I have not gone all woo-woo, and no, I haven't just seen the light and found Jesus, etc., etc. Or what I believe in, what you believe in, I respect, and I'm sure you'd respect in me. It's as simple as this: the time has come for extraordinary things to happen.
And it's beautifully put there. It's beautifully put. The most important thing that I've tried to make a point to people is that we're in the Third World War, where good is against evil.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that evil will not exist after this. Of course it will.
Yeah.
Good will take back control.
Yeah.
Because good had lost control to evil for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Evil had taken control. Good will take back control 100%. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But evil will still be there, but it won't be in control.
Yeah. I think it takes time, and I think that's the frustration for people right now, is they want everything to resolve now. And what's your amazing phrase about time?
Okay, so this is a really interesting thing. Hannah and I know a really incredible man of God called Rev. He actually is called Rev.
Yeah, that is his name, and he's a reverend.
6'4" Jamaican, and he is just a beautiful man. And we met him by synchronicity, serendipity came together. Clearly, it was orchestrated on my 50th birthday, so just over 4 years ago, and in an extraordinary way. And within meeting him at the place I was having my 50th birthday party, 10 minutes later, his wife had been invited down to come and sing with Hannah because she's a gospel singer. And
I was playing the piano and singing.
So I mean, that's how we it was a love affair straight away. The two families just got on. And he runs something he calls a conference on a Sunday. There is no talk of a church. There's little talk of religion. He doesn't, but there's lots of talk about kingdom. And I went to him because I genuinely believe the Bible is a phenomenal business book. It's a phenomenal book of law. It's a phenomenal book of philosophy and self-empowerment. And so you can take from it whatever you want. And most people say, I don't believe all books. I've barely ever read one piece of scripture, I doubt. And so, and I'm no expert, but every time I read something and then read it again, the stuff I learn from that book, just as I would I'm sure from all of the religious texts. And what he said one morning was that God collapses time. And it instantly hit straight in here. And I knew exactly what it meant. And this last few weeks, there's been a quote come through me again and again and again. And ironically, it was first, I'd seen it, and then it was first used in a Zoom. We all lived on Zoom about 2 months ago. And this is the quote, that for decades, nothing happens. And then decades happen in weeks and days and hours. And I'm going to add minutes and seconds, because when this begins to cascade and God collapses time, it will feel like decades have happened in minutes, because everything's going to change.
Sure.
Well, even from 2 weeks ago to today, I mean, this time 2 weeks ago, I was looking at my phone going, what just happened? I mean, literally, it's 11:45, and it was around this time 2 weeks ago, and look what's happened in 2 weeks. And it's phenomenal that time can move so quickly, and events and connections and thought processes and changes in your life can happen so quickly. And that is really the extraordinary thing about that time. Going back to you were talking about that, the darkness and the light in that, and the positive and the negative. There's a beautiful quote from Marianne Williamson. I'd love to read it to you, because it's one of those quotes that, I mean, when I heard it, it struck me. And it says this: our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And this is the bit I love the most. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And that's what's happening to us in this last 2 weeks is, Chris has had messages of people saying, thanks so much for sharing this. It's given me the courage to share and tell my wife, that, I support this, and people have messaged me and said, thank you for sharing. So I did a live, not this Thursday gone, but the one before on Facebook. It was rather sweary. If anybody would listen to it, put your headphones in if you have children around. But I was really passionate about something that was just ridiculous. And I shared quite a lot of personal details as well. And so many people messaged me and said, thank you so much for sharing this. It's given me the courage to actually say something to somebody else. And, a lot of times when we're given a voice to speak, as you have, we can let our ego get in the way and say, why am I being asked to do this? And it's not why am I, it's I've been given this voice to
it's
speak.
A gift.
Not why am I doing it, it's I've been called to speak, I've been called to share this. I don't need to think about the why. Although Simon Sinek always says start with why. Don't worry about it, just get on and do it. So to anybody sitting watching this thinking, well, I don't know where to start, I don't know how to say something to somebody, all you have to do is just share the information, send somebody a link, send somebody a piece of writing or a website or a YouTube clip and say, this might be for you, it might not, but it might help you.
Sure.
And I think that's all we can do in this time of difficulty, is just share, like you said at the beginning, the hope, inspiration, knowledge. And do you know what, Charlie, in my world, my view is if you have knowledge about something, you have a duty to share it with people as positively as you can. Now, we have a phrase in networking, some will, some won't, so what? It doesn't matter. Or your only job is to be the messenger and share what you know. And if somebody wants to take that information and do something good, great. If they want to pick it apart and say it's not for them, that's their prerogative.
Of course.
But have respect to each other. And I'm just seeing on my own Facebook too right now some just really vile language, nastiness, and I'm like, that says more about you than it does me. I wouldn't dare just belittle somebody's own beliefs. Have respect for people.
But I've always said, if you've got some facts, come back at me.
Yes, absolutely.
But when it always gets personal, like I'm a
Yeah.
60-year-old bald fat man, like whoopee fucking do.
Yeah, like, and so tell me something I don't know. Right.
I came back with the fact, but don't worry about that, I'm a supermodel on the inside.
I love it. Yeah, nice. Absolutely.
As a point of reference, did you perchance see that Sasha Stone video from yesterday?
Funny enough, what, with Del Victory? Or with
this was the one with Jason.
Oh,
the
Jason. Yeah, Jason. Sasha was on fire.
Yeah.
And gave, when is he not? But he gave an extraordinary, don't come at me about Donald Trump. It was, I'm going to use it as my default point, right?
Okay.
Because it was just extraordinary. I'll send you the link. But I know you know all these people, but that was on the Revolution Network. Jason, Dr. Jason Dean.
I think what he was saying was, you don't necessarily have to like somebody. And what you just said about your wife having that revelation of, but look at what he's doing.
Yeah.
We can't be liked by everybody. This is not, we're in the biggest playground in the world. We can't like everybody. That's a fact. We mirror some people and we meet them and we just go, bang, I feel like I've known you forever. They are your tribe. Yeah. You don't have to be best bosom buddies with somebody to like them. But when you see a person's actions and their integrity, that they say they do what they say they're going to, that's when you know somebody has merit. And you really have to look at the facts that he has in this last 4 years, freed more people and taken people out of harm, and now he is bringing down. But of course people want to see it now, and it's like this isn't like waving a magic wand and just expecting it all to go ping. This takes time, this takes logistics. This is like, we are living in the biggest live exercise of the planet. And some of that was planned and some of it wasn't.
My biggest audience is American, and I'm trying to get my mind around that. Over 50% of my viewing comes from America. I've got a lot from Australia, a lot from New Zealand, and that is mind-blowing.
Yeah,
I'm getting a lot of Americans who are saying, "Where we want to send you donations. Where can we send them?" I said, "I'm not actually doing it for money. I'm doing it for love."
Yeah.
and I don't want to get.
You're doing it for truth,
Right.
I'm doing it for truth.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And I said, yes, I applied to YouTube 7 weeks ago for monetization because I was recommended to do so on the basis that all the money would go into my 10-year-old's savings account to
Nice.
give him a future.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's about being humanitarian, is it? It's not about us.
Not about us.
About how can we help other people? And that is the beautiful thing about what's changing right now in this world that's going on behind closed doors, is that good stuff is happening. Yeah. Good technologies are coming. Good food is coming. Yeah. Good medicine. And you can't really call medicine.
You just nailed one there, because we've been doing some research. Because the WHO and the CDC have been they've blocked 6,000 patents. Right. And one or two of those patents are to do with med beds.
Right. I just read that this morning.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we've been doing some research on those. And these med beds, you can slide patients into them and they can tell you everything that's wrong with them. And turn the other side, they've been cured.
Yeah.
And not without medicine. But the problem is because Bill Gates is the largest funder of the WHO,
right,
blocked all of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's coming, and of course, the problem for people right now is that they can only see the reality of what's in front of them.
Yeah.
Oh, and it comes from a position of lack. I don't have any money. I don't have any time. I can't. And that's the very difficult thing for people at the moment. And I've been through that myself, is that we have to change that mindset of I can do something. I can have good health. What can I do today?
Well, the one thing that I love the most is my favourite thing on my whole journey was when we were talking about cancer and viruses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get a lemon, as long as it's not got wax on it, you put it in the freezer, and then you grate it off and put it onto a salad. 400 times more powerful than chemotherapy at curing cancer. And
I bet it tastes good.
And then when you research it, you find that Bill Gates tried to patent the lemon.
I mean, that's got to be the dumbest thing he's ever done. I mean, really.
You couldn't make it up.
That's hilarious. And this is the thing, is, God's garden is what we live in.
Exactly.
And, unfortunately, the big pharma and the big corporations, as part of that secret covenant, said out loud, we will harm, we will put chemicals in the food, we will put chemicals in the water, we will put chemicals in their brain so that they will feel this and feel that. And when you know that, and it's interesting because I read that last year and didn't really pay attention too much to it. I just why pay some attention to something so negative anyway. But when we saw that on John Mappin's show, I said to Chris, I was like, I've read this. I've heard about it before. We need to look at this. We need to find it. I mean, and then people go, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. It's on the internet, for goodness sake. I mean, and of course, anything could be planted there, but it's in black and white. It's hidden in plain sight. And yet we suddenly go, oh, no, that can't possibly be right. Oh, no, they haven't got fluoride in the water. Yes, they do, And so when we start taking control of our own lives, that, of course, puts us further away from those people that want to continue controlling us. It's why we don't work 9 to 5 for a corporation or a business. It's why we work from home for ourselves with some other businesses. It's why we grow our own vegetables, because we are removing ourselves. It's why we don't have the TV. We're removing ourselves from this wall over here and saying we want to be in a different space. That does not, therefore, make us a conspiracy theorist. It makes us a keeper of our own choices. Yeah. And, when you take back your sovereignty and your own living being, it's a very, very empowering thing. And, we're trying to impress upon our 3 children, I have 2 and Chris has 1, that we can do this. They are all looking at us like we've lost the plot. And we can't blame them, because we've been part of the problem. Yeah. Because our parents were part of the problem. And so we've got this complete dissonance, as they call it, isn't it? Conscious dissonance, where this, what we're being told, doesn't make sense with what I'm seeing. And that is the problem of reality for people right now, is you're telling me something that doesn't look right as to what's in front of me. So we've got to bridge that gap very gently over a period of time so that there can be that shift. But it comes from stepping away from the news, stepping away from the bad stuff. And it's it's difficult to do. I get that for people. It's hard.
It's that, okay, my daughter's been looking at me like I was nuts for nearly 20 years. She's 28. So what I agree totally with there, we don't always agree, by the way, that's a really positive thing. Yeah. Okay. But what's very, very obvious about everything Hannah stands for is and talks about is this compound effect. It's what can you change today? What little thing can you change? What little thing can you add in that will be slightly more positive? And, you know, I know it's really easy for all of us to be here and to sound so positive, etc., etc. But if everybody watching, you can just take the tiniest thing that literally change the way they think. So, for example, I really want to say this message, okay, because the lack thing is not your fault. We were born into lack, okay? We were born into scarcity because they took our abundance from us at birth, our birthright. They took it from you.
Yes.
They stole it from you. And if you've wondered all your life how you managed to even earn all that money and have one, it's because they designed systems into which you would be bewitched. And the tick-tock of the clock was in front of you, bemusing you and hypnotizing you into giving them your money, right? Giving them your signature over and over, doing deals with the devil that you didn't even understand. And when push came to shove, they created an entirely fraudulent system called the global money system anyway, because they created every single bit of that money in debt and they charged you interest on it. And once they charged you interest on it, they had to create something called inflation. Now, if you don't understand that, that's fine. But you have to understand one thing, it was not your fault. But having heard this, now is a great time just to go and find out one thing today about what does that mean.
I think the point from that is once you know something, you can't unknow it. And then if you don't do anything about it, you, like you said at the beginning, you only have yourself to blame. And, you know, I made this point on my live the other day, was that if you're sick right now, it is your fault.
Yes.
Because you put something in your mouth, even though you knew it wasn't good for you. You know, as I mentioned to you before we came on this call, I'm in AA recovery. I've been sober 9 years. When I was drinking, it was my fault. Nobody put a bottle or a gun to my head and said, drink this. It was my choice, and I had, you know, no choice over that. And that's where you can say, well, that doesn't make sense. But that was a greater will than my own, and that was an addiction. And so my own health was as a direct result of that. And, you know, if people are overweight, if they're unhappy in their relationship, any area of our life that we're not content with, it is our fault. And some people say, well, I'm in this job because I can't do anything else. Yes, you can.
So this is where we disagree just slightly, okay? Because I have studied this for a long time. The power of the corporation does, I'm afraid, exonerate us just a little bit.
Well,
because they have layered upon layered upon layered ways of controlling us.
Well, the 3
and
for
our
2
mind control, etc.
in the supermarket. The 3 for 2 makes us go, oh, I'm getting this great deal. Let's have it.
Indeed.
You know, and but we are responsible for our life, where we live, who we are with. You know, I was in a relationship I was not happy in. You admittedly said yourself. Same thing. When you are not happy, only you have the chance or the opportunity to change that. So if people are not happy with this situation right now, they can do something about it. And they're saying, but if I go into a shop, I have to wear a mask. No, you don't. No, you don't have to do that. You can take control.
This is quite an important thing, because this again is all about control, because it's got nothing to do with a virus. Because if there was a virus out there, if there was, it would get straight through that mask.
Yes. And everybody would be dead.
Well, and also it's the fact that, you know, nobody's washing them or changing them.
They keep on the gear stick. They keep on
I mean, the amount of germs on that. Then, I mean, people are getting all these sores around their faces. I mean, surely that must make somebody go, what's right with this? Nothing's right with this.
So here's the thing, and Sasha Stone made this point yesterday on that show as well, and that was that, you know, if you have to go into a supermarket and they insist on a mask, then don't go in it. Find somewhere else. Go to a little shop, you know, do that deal. Register your complaint. You know, there are ways of getting an exemption card, etc. Yeah, anyway.
But yes, it really is a case of looking at ourselves. But it comes through every area, Charlie. You know, if we're not happy, like you said, you got off the TV yesterday unhappy with those results, you know, and obviously there are winners and losers in every sport.
It had nothing to do with winning and losing. It was all to do with the fact that it becomes so political.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to watch the sport. Number one, there was no crowd there making a noise and getting a load of abuse, which I quite enjoy.
And that's good. That riles them up, doesn't it?
Course, look, you need competition.
Yes.
Competitiveness is not racism.
No.
The government tell you it is, but it's not. To be competitive, like with respect, when I grew up, I'm 60 years old. And when there was no black children, there was no foreign children in Suffolk in those days. The kids we picked on had ginger hair or glasses. And then when the first Chinese family came in, the kids with ginger hair and glasses went, yippee! They're not picking on me
anymore.
It's them now. And then, of course, the black fellas come along and the Chinese went, yippee! Kids are evil. Kids are evil. But
and yet we're all just beautiful people, aren't we?
They'll always pick on somebody. This is the nature of us. And it either makes you or it breaks you. And for me, I was picked on at school because of the religion I was in, and I had to stand outside of assembly. And then I found out that while I stood out of assembly and took a beating in the playground, if I suddenly became favourable with them, which meant breaking into the headmaster's office during assembly and getting confiscated gear back and selling it to the kids back for £1.
Nice.
I went from zero to hero.
There's the entrepreneur in you right there.
It was, and I've learned that all my life. You know, when you come to a T-junction in life, there's no point procrastinating because you go nowhere. If you turn left and it's the wrong way, which for me it was at those days, but I've learned to have the bollocks to turn around and come back.
Right, you can go 180.
Yeah, and next time you know to turn the right way.
Absolutely.
You should do.
It's interesting. Go on, sorry.
It was just an education, you know. In life, I've said this so many times, in life you learn very, very little from success. You learn everything from failure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you can't have one without the other. Well, you know, it's the positive and the negative again. You need all those little failures. I mean, look at Thomas Edison with the light bulb. All those little failures, and then bang, that one worked. Yeah. And if you didn't have all those failures, how would you know that one wasn't the very one that you needed to make it right?
And so I want to draw that very, very clear fact you got there. I want to take it back to 2008 and Wall Street and the whole financial crisis. In this concept of success and failure, my favorite film ever. I pretty much talk about it in every conversation.
He knows all the lines.
Since The Big Short. I know it almost verbatim because I've watched it with subtitles over and over and over. Do you know what?
About 25 times.
Do you know what? The very probably or bits of it, certain amount. The very first time I watched it, I was watching the end of it. I'm not just in case anybody's not seen it. Please go and watch The Big Short tonight, so that everybody's watched it. So that I can.
Never seen it. I'll watch it. I'll put it down.
Okay, so at the very end of this film, I'm trying to work out who the heck they're still trying to sell these things to, because obviously the economy was falling to pieces around the Treasury and the Fed, and they could not work out how to keep plugging the gaps where the water was cascading. And they finally thought when Lehman went down and they let it go bankrupt, that was going to be it. And then all of a sudden, AIG suddenly turned up with all of their billions and billions of losses because they'd underwritten the other side of many of these fraudulent contracts. And so the reason I use this is because Wall Street has never, ever been allowed to fail. They've only known success, which means they've never learned anything.
Right.
Yes. So when you are stacked up again and again and again, and you are never allowed to fail, you can't learn from that.
Correct.
So, for example, in March 2008, when Bear Stearns should have gone to zero, but was fraudulently rescued by money, the dodgy handshake, given from the Treasury into JP Morgan to literally give them Bear Stearns, and they complained that they had to, take this company in. Yeah, you got them for 50 cents a share or $2 a share or whatever. And they were given that money to buy them, Right, so then it obviously gets to September when Lehman's was allowed to go, and there's actually a much bigger backstory that's ever been covered than why Lehman's was good, because do you know what? I'm not even going to cover it here, but there's a bigger backstory because we're really going to go in deep. We'll be here till 4 o'clock this afternoon. But when Lehman's was allowed to go down, Dick Fuld, who'd been at Lehman's for over 30 years, obviously was the CEO at the end of it. His wealth wasn't wealth; it was paper-based wealth, right? in his head had reduced from, you know, several hundred million, and at one point when they were still trying to be bought by Barclays, whatever, you know, he said, you know, my shares have just lost whatever today, and they never did, because they were bits of paper. And whilst you've only got bits of paper, until you've that has materialized into something, it was never worth anything anyway. Right? Just pretend, right? So when it went to zero, and he'd effectively lost everything, and he hadn't actually taken anything out and put in true, real assets, means that he'd never ever learned by his mistakes, because they'd always found a way of extra money to bail them out.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that I genuinely believe this, that none of the Wall Street banks will go to the wall this time, because they are going to be rescued just as long as everybody, just in the same way as everybody else is. However, those people who are driving those very same institutions to the same place again will, I'm afraid, learn by their failure, because they will be taken out of those institutions.
Yeah.
And that's a massive positive for this planet. And if some people are watching this going, I have no idea what you just talked about, what I just need you to know is, if you don't understand that the chairman and the CEOs and all of the main protagonists in all of the Wall Street banks, and pretty much every major bank on the planet, all the too big to fail, for example, are disgusting gangsters. And they will be on a list somewhere. And it amazes me that they don't appear on all of those lists that we see of people.
Sure. One thing that was made very clear to me was the transition between, once Trump had moved the Federal Reserve under the control of the Treasury, that his quantum financial system, as we were told originally, the global financial reset was in place. I've had intel yesterday from inside the White House that that's now been, the quantum financial system has now been monetized.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've said that out loud, I couldn't say that before you did. Yeah. I actually have exactly the same intel. So there you go, people watching this. Join the dots. Two people who've never spoken to each other before have had the same intel, probably from slightly different people within that building, to know that the quantum financial system has been in place for a long time, been tested,
and now it's ready to go.
See, the other aspect that I have as well, Chris, is I'm very, very, very close friends to the head of the Dragon family in China.
Interesting.
So they're the family that have had their golden bonds and Chinese bonds monetized.
Right.
So I number one, I know that they've been monetized, but I also know the bankers in Switzerland who actually monetized them.
Wow.
So I've heard it from both sides.
Love it.
Right.
And the Dragon bonds that were issued, when valued, went into quadrillions.
Right.
They actually only monetized 100 trillion.
Wow.
And they cleared the debt between you and I. They cleared the debt of the USA, Russia, China, and India in one go.
I think between you and I is probably not true, is it? Because you just said that on your...
that was made very clear to me, and I had very, very good intel on that. The debt, what you're saying about the American debt that's just put out there to panic and alarm.
Yes.
Well, and this is it. I mean, the public, and this is why all these things have to take a bit of time, because the public just would start freaking out. I mean, you know, the public, if they knew some of this stuff and the real what is going on, and the media suddenly went, right, this is what's happening today, folks, people would start imploding. They wouldn't have a clue what was going on, and they wouldn't know where to put themselves in their reality in front of them. And this is what I was saying earlier on, is that's where we have to take this time to bridge these gaps and join these dots, and that is why helping to get information out there like this about Trump and what's happening and sharing our voices is just giving people those little steps to wake up and go, oh, my day isn't what it looks like. I mean, the fact that most people are still sat at home not working should be a bit of a clue, because if we're all going to go back into lockdown, you're still going to not be at work. Right. I mean, at what point will people get it and go, okay, when am I ever going to work again?
But we also had the discussion, darling, this morning, that there is very good news that in some ways, the many people will never, ever understand exactly what's going on. And I'll give you an example, right? I had, we'll do anything we can never to walk in a banking institution ever again. However, even when you do your best to live out the system, you still have to have friction somewhere with the system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the only high street bank in the UK that I would ever go anywhere near is Metro Bank. I
Okay.
love the stories about the fact they're going down. That's only because the city hates them.
Yeah.
And so I know the Metro Bank in Oxfordshire very, 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 very well.
Yeah.
And the assistant manager is a fabulous human being.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say which sex because it seems incredibly unfair to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, and I really do mean this because it's so unfair to her just to relay this story. But anyway, so we're having our conversation and we're trying to iron out a problem. And we get to the end of the meeting, and we've known each other now for the best part of 2 years, and we got on really, really well. And I said, so, I mean, it is crazy what's going on, isn't it? And first of all, her answer was, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, all right.
Candid camera, where are you?
Into a time warp, okay. And then, so we just get mentioned stuff. And I wanted to explain my loathing of a certain bank, right? Because the CEO is proven, this is the UK bank, and many of their shareholders want this man out, is proven to have links to Jeffrey Epstein. So I said, well, you know about the Jeffrey Epstein case and all the rest of it? And she looked at me, she went, no. Right.
Yeah.
So this is my point to both of you, is that because we live in a world, and if you watched my Twitter feed, you'd think that the world knows everything about Hollywood and all the rest of it. But because we live in this world, many people don't. And that's absolutely the way we have to accept it. We can't wander around going, I got a red pill, I got a red. You just give them the tools and they'll come on the journey, or they won't. Let's keep it positive, people. Let's not start pointing the fingers about how stupid people are and how asleep they are. Because you just have to make allowances for it. We all get things at different paces, and we've got different things to worry about. Those people who are locked down in difficult relationships, etc. Are they really out there working out how the world's going to be saved? It's probably not likely, is it? Okay, how they're going to be saved, maybe. So this I find extraordinary, of course, that she couldn't possibly know about the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Yeah.
She might not watch the TV.
However, I want to relay give you another tool to your audience, and that is that when Charlie just said that about how the gold has been monetized and those contracts have been monetized. And the reason for that is that monetization is what is part of what's coming forward to save everybody, to change. Save everything is the wrong word. To change the planet, right? Monetarily, change humanity, etc. To fund humanitarian projects, to literally, for the debt forgiveness, etc.
Right.
If you want to go and find a point of reference as to the fact that nothing you've ever heard about money or the monetary system or history or any American president before this present one, go find this book, okay? I refer this in The Big Short, I refer to everybody, okay? This book is a book of truth. Yeah. It's called Gold Warriors, okay? If you just go and look up the Gold Warriors book, and it looks a bit like that, and it's by the Seagraves. And when I picked this book up, I tell a lie. I was referred this book by the incredible book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Yes? Okay, which I'm looking at over there. Do you mind, Ken?
I will.
That's all right.
Yep.
Because we live our lives by books, okay? Right? So there you are.
Huge, great big thing.
Okay, so
it's like a doorstop.
Yeah, it is incredible. The story of how the Federal Reserve is spread, and then many other stories. But this book here was referred to there, and in this book, it will actually explain to you how gold was manipulated and stolen effectively by Japan across 13 Asian countries between 1895 and 1945. They literally did an industrial complex of gold and asset-based rape and pillage of those countries, step by step by step. And they would do it so cleverly. They'd send in spies years before the planned invasions, etc. So all of those countries, including China, obviously, and Japan literally took this stuff. Now, a lot of it went back to Japan. It's one reason that Japan is sitting on a doomed zombie economy for the last 30-something years and doesn't seem to give a crap, because they know what they've got hiding and they know what they've got, all right?
Yeah.
Okay? And, but they also knew they had to hide a lot. So the Philippines ended up with an awful lot of hidden treasures. I mean, this book is so incredibly well researched. The actual notes at the back are almost as long as the damn book itself, okay? And I've read the notes as well, and they are like another read. And the reason when I picked this up, I knew I needed to read it, was because it's opened up with, everybody who's read our notes and edited this says this is critical information that must go out to the world. They've also said, if you publish it, you'll die.
Yeah.
didn't die.
Yeah.
Their lives were a little hounded.
Mm.
They've written other books as well. They are now dead through, I assume, old age, because it was some years ago. This book will explain to you how there is more gold on this planet than anybody knows, which is why the gold that they monetize in their Chinese elders is not in there. Oh, there's only 200,000 tons of gold ever mined on planet.
Right.
It's not included because the global monetary system, the one run by the cabal, doesn't account for all these things because these are the good secrets.
Mm-hmm.
This is the good force coming forward.
Yeah.
And I love it. If you look at me and the rest of us and think you're crackpots, brilliant. Look, you're on his channel. You know there's going to be crackpots. It's brilliant. Okay. But these are the good times, not the old good times of, hey, everything always goes up. We're okay. We're in a market that's ever going to go up, like in 2008 when it came crashing down, right? Yeah. Learn from mistakes. These are different financial, these are different times financially for the entire planet. You know, things like, for example, the fact that we will stop going to Africa and seeing it as the wealthiest continent on the planet for which to take stuff away and to go and build new ports, etc., to create new Silk Roads. These things will stop because Africa will become plentiful and abundant for those who live there, not those who want to rape it. It's very
exactly
simple.
right. Long overdue and long deserved. And I've often said, like, I love the black people of Africa. They're absolutely wonderful. I've worked with them for years and years and years. And if you gave them what they were entitled to, their oil, their gold, their diamonds, their land, if you gave it to them, they'd stop stealing, they'd stop killing, and they'd be the most wonderful race of people in the world because they're such nice, good people.
Yeah.
You know, they're undamaged by mainstream media because most of them can't afford a telly.
No. Yeah. And they're damaged by a planned invasion of white money that was given to them as loans, etc., IMF, World Bank, etc. And then they were invaded by people who decided they would back up the guerrillas in this country and give them arms. You know, I mean, you know, this has been done over and over again by the old cabal, run through the machine of America, basically.
Yeah.
And this is why, you know, when we hear that Trump is, as we say, draining the swamp and doing all the good things that he's doing that the media aren't telling us about, that's why getting that message out there is so important.
It is.
And why we truly believe that everything he's doing is changing humanity, you know, for the better, but it's going to take some time, and we just have to ask people to be patient and to do what they can on the ground themselves to start with. You know, be a good person, reach out to your neighbor, you know, grow some vegetables. Like I've got a hydro veg kit at home that just runs on water and it grows all these vegetables, and I've got an abundance of cabbages at the moment. I don't even like cabbage that much, so we just took some to our neighbor and just gave it to her on the doorstep. You know, we have 4 chickens, 3 of them lay. And you talk about that pecking order. There's a little one, and she gets pecked on because she's the weakest, you know. So I look after her a bit more than the other 2.
Is she a black people?
You know, and we have to just be.
Yeah, we gave some gold. She's all right for the long term.
We have to look after things, you know. So what people can do things today. They can change how they live, how they act, how they behave, and it starts with being content with themselves. And of course, unfortunately, Madonna's Material World song has lost its impetus in its momentum because we're not living. Fortunately, you know, we are not living in a material world anymore. I think people are becoming much more conscious of living their way in their time and in how they want to. But of course, it comes with that little shift of energy and shift of mindset. That's the biggest thing people really have to grasp about this period of time is your mindset has to change from lack into abundance. You know, I am well, I am feeling good, I am being positive, I am growing vegetables, I am doing this. And that's not about ego, it's what I'm doing positively today.
It's not just good for your diet, but it makes you feel good when you can grow something.
Oh, I mean, we counted the other day 5 things on our plate that came from our garden, and we sit there and we thank the food for growing. When I plant my vegetables, I promise you I talk to them. And the ones that I probably just shoved in a pot and didn't talk to, guess what? They've not grown.
Yes, that's very bad of you.
It's very naughty of me. It's very true because I was rushed. I wasn't paying attention.
She's the gardener, I'm the chef.
And do you know what? I've never had green fingers. I've always hated gardening. But I am so blessed. I took 2 tomatoes, right?
Yeah.
I scooped out the seeds and I literally put them in a little bit of soil in a biscuit, a plastic biscuit thing, not even a proper seed tray. And I said, please, little vegetables, just grow for me. And when they were about this big, I took them out and I planted them into different pots. And then when they got about that big, I put them into bigger ones. And I was like, thank you for growing. And I kept saying to Chris, this one tiny seed is now this enormous plant with all of these tomatoes coming.
Okay.
And I'm like, how did this happen?
I'm looking at this wall of tomato plants. We've given them to loads of people. These people said they will not grow tomatoes from that, etc. Now, people believe that's abundance right there.
Right.
It's just abundance. It's abundance. Imagine
Banana
she'd have
growing.
taken all the seeds from that tomato, from that one punnet of tomatoes. We'd literally have enough tomatoes for the whole of this village.
Right.
Correct.
That's abundance.
Exactly.
It does work.
Right.
And if anybody questions any of the zany stuff we're talking about, did you sit down at Christmas 2019, dig into whatever roast meal you had, I don't know, turkey or goose or whatever, sit there and go, now we must plan for the next 6 months because I believe we're going to be sat on our backsides for 4 months. We must think about all that's coming because, of course, 2020, the first 6 months will be the craziest time for humanity and we will have to be told what we're going to be doing. No, of course you didn't.
No.
Of course, so the most nuts period of our entire human history we are literally living through. Why would you question anything?
Right.
Sure.
I truly believe anything is possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes from being kind and good to our neighbours. And
Charlie, can I ask a question? Because you must have had so many people come at you. What's the craziest thing people have asked you or told you or wanted or whatever?
The thing that I get said the most times is, unless I can confirm it on mainstream media, then I don't believe it.
And you go, good luck with that then.
Exactly. You're not going to find the truth in a bowl of lies.
Right. And this is, I think, the hardest thing for people to understand is that unless they see it on the telly, they won't believe it.
Right.
And I don't understand why people can't actually see past that either.
Can we please go past what you can't understand with people? We've done this. We can't blame them anymore. Because
one of the biggest things that I point out to people that has been sort of my foundation is pointing out on the government website where COVID-19 was downgraded to nothing more than normal.
On the 23rd of March.
March 2020.
Right.
So it went below man flu.
Right. I love that, man flu.
So it's gone down to nothing more than the common cold, and they've shut down the world's economy on that, and you think that's okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that I point out to them is that we all know if you put a plastic bag over your head, you'll suffocate. If you put a mask over your face, right now where we're 35 degrees, the virus can't exist above 24 degrees.
Right, so what's the point? Right.
So you're recycling your own air, which breaks down your immune system. So when a real virus comes in November, you're fucked.
Yeah. When the actual flu comes along, I know. And this is the thing is, I mean, there is no doubt that some people have died this year.
Yeah.
Really? Guess what? People die every single day of the year because of their life choices and their health choices and the way they drive too fast and, all sorts of manner of things, whether they've smoked, drunk, done drugs, eaten rubbish food and got diabetes or been ill. Right. I don't know why people are so surprised that people are dying. I mean, that makes me sound really heartless, but it's the truth. People die
that is why we have
every
undertakers
day
and funeral parlours.
of the year.
Right.
Babies are born and die. It's a very sad part of life.
We realise how many people die every day. That's the problem. We don't.
Right. And this is the thing is when we look up these facts, people say, oh, but look at all the brown people that have died. I'm like, do you know how many people kill themselves today? Do you know how many people died of cancer today or heart attacks? I mean, really, you're looking at the wrong thing. And of course, that's because they want us to be distracted and look at the wrong things so that we'll stay in the fear. Yeah. And this is where it's very difficult trying to have a conversation with somebody like that just will not look past the actual facts.
Sure.
Okay.
And see it.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Give us some more crazy stuff people have asked you, because I've got to share a couple of mine in a minute.
Crazy.
Life advice?
Sorry?
Have you had marriage proposals, life advice, anything like that?
I've had a few unusual suggestions that I can't talk about.
Proposals?
Yeah, but Look, I've married. I'm very, very happily married to my wife, and I absolutely adore her. And she's been an absolute rock to me through this, even though she disagreed with me right at the start. With most of the time, you get a lot of trolls. That trolls, I've learned to love them. If you give them a hug and love them, they don't know how to handle it.
Right, right.
Fight back. And none of them have names, none of them have faces.
No.
But they just got something, and they always make a derogatory comment.
Oh yeah.
And you just.
I had that the other day. I'm like, good. Have a nice day. I didn't even reply. It's just no point.
So I made the mistake. No, not the mistake. No, I didn't make a mistake. I did some stuff about the importance of owning some gold and some silver, etc., etc. It opened a bit of a landslide of questions on the fund, which is fine because other people started dealing with them. I try and answer comments, obviously, questions. I don't like people having arguments under my. No, I don't really get it. Yeah. No. I also don't like people coming across as they absolutely, definitely know stuff. Yeah. Because I read it and I go, you know shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But it's the DMs that that get to me. So, for example, I read the first because you can open without reading them, etc. And literally, some stuff said, "Should I sell all my shares?"
What did you say? You're a financial advisor, right?
What's your strategy?
Yeah,
I don't know how to deal with this stuff. So of course I don't respond to that, But what about XRP? I've gone all in. I'm like, okay, what? Good for you. I don't know how to respond to this. Okay, so I pitched up. This is all I did. I pitched up with a message. Well, I started my Twitter feed because I jammed back in March, first time ever. Not even on my name, because I could see that we were going to be told to do stuff. And when we're told to do stuff, people don't think for themselves. I just called it think for yourself. That's all I wanted to do. And I was conflicted myself. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. I just knew that we had to start thinking about ourselves in certain ways and for ourselves and our futures and our families and all that stuff. And when this really blew up, all I'm saying is I pitched up to share knowledge. That's all I've done. And if I can give people knowledge, it's for them to then go and pick up as a tool and go and find some other stuff out and start connecting the dots. When people just put proof ? I mean, what are you supposed to do with that?
I mean, that's just lazy living.
Of course it is.
It's lazy living. It's like, I have so many people say, I posted a picture the other day. This isn't even got a source of proof on it. And I'm like, go look up on Google. I'm not doing your homework for you. Don't be lazy.
Do it, don't they?
She's really good at going and finding out news stories and seeing if they are for real and trying to cross-reference them as much as you can. For me, it's all about what I've been doing for 25 more years, what I've read, etc., etc. You will know this, but very few people can actually sit down and write the equation of how money is created, right? Okay. Correct. So if you don't know how money is created out of thin air and out of nothing, etc., then you've already backstepped because you don't even understand why the financial system
Can I put something out there, Chris, and see what your thought is on this? When I'm looking for information, because I believe in God, very often I'll just ask him to guide me.
Right.
And just see if he leads me down the right path. And if I leave it up to him to lead me the right way. And for some reason, when you put your life into his hands, he will lead you the right way. And it's all about resetting our moral compass right now.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with you on that, Charlie, in that, we are too dependent on other people to make our decisions for us. Oh, well, I can't do this because I'm on benefits. Oh, well, you're letting the government decide your future then. No, you can decide your future by getting off your bum and go and do something about it. Oh, well, I can't do this because. And when you do hand over your life in that way to a power greater than yourself, whether that's God or, for me, I call it the universe, whatever word. I mean, it could be your cat. It doesn't matter. When you hand it over and it's not about your will,
you saw my face.
I know. Then maybe not your cat then. When you hand it over to a power greater than you and your own will, things happen miraculously. And this is the thing that people struggle to understand. And when other people have gone on that journey with you and handed it over to a will greater than themselves and trust trust in the system of hope and humanity and love and connection, suddenly incredible things happen, and they go, why didn't I do this before? You know, when I gave my surrender to alcohol and said, I'm powerless over this, I can't do this anymore, my life completely 180'd and went in the best direction ever. Now, it doesn't mean to say that there aren't going to be bad things that happen, and there have. You know, I've been through some really difficult times, lost a best friend to suicide, had health challenges, all sorts of things. But I'm able to deal with those because it's not about my will and my choice. Sure. And that's the thing, is life gets good when you let go of trying to be in control of every blimmin' decision that you make that should be, well, I've sat and cogitated and looked at this and dissected it. You know, when you just let go and surrender and have trust and faith and hope, and everything works out.
This is a fantastic point.
Of course it is.
And it's illustrated again, would I dare I say, in The Big Short. And it's at the end where Michael Burry writes I'm not going to give away, but Michael Burry writes a letter to his investors, and he explains that people look for familiarity and authority because they believe it's authoritative on advice and how they should do stuff and all the rest of it. And this is exactly why somebody would ask me, should I sell my shares? Because I pitched up. I seem to have a load of followers all of a sudden, and I talked about gold and silver. So I must know, because I'm familiar now and authoritative, and I don't know. Who could anybody answer that question? But we're looking for somebody else to pass the buck to blame on, whatever it might be, etc. But to tell us what to do. And we have to work it out for ourselves, which is, I'm going to ask you a question. Where do you see this going for you, Charlie?
Well, I did it because I was bored. I was a bit like a naughty boy locked in his mum's bedroom. Told not to look in the cupboard. So I've been looking around everywhere and gone down rabbit holes I shouldn't have gone down. But
it's like trying to find the Christmas presents.
Yeah, I'll let you into something that happened in the last couple of weeks. I've been approached. My mainline business is that I move physical currency around for different governments around the world. That's what I do. And I've been approached by the Americans who've now got all this golden cash out of the Vatican, 650 plane loads, that's now in Fort Knox. They will be distributing around the world to back up the currencies around the world. And what you were absolutely spot on right with what's in the Philippines. There's also 178 warehouses in Thailand that are full of cash, taken into Thailand to buy heroin and hashish over the years from the CIA. That's still there, never been used. And they're all brand new notes. So they'll all go back to Fort Knox, or they'll be spread out around the world. And rather than use the CIA, I've been approached directly and asked if I would help them do the logistics on that. So that's a possibility. We've also got something else where a certain huge investor wants to invest a huge amount of money in eco projects in the UK.
Right.
And I'm part of the team that's involved with that. So we've got an awful lot on that is very, very different. This is a little bit naughty, this. In the old days, when we used to move currency about for certain clients, our private jets were full of cocaine, champagne and hookers.
Right.
Now I've got diplomats and bodyguards. It's not quite the same, but you learn an awful lot more.
You're still living life highly, though, aren't you? Still high vibration.
I'm still enjoying life, and that's the most important thing. I came into this world with nothing, and I'll leave with nothing. I just want to enjoy the bit in the middle and make it worthwhile. You know, because it's a short time. We're not here for a long time. Yeah, and we're here for a good time.
Well, and all those things you just talked about that happen on an airplane, they're short-lived.
Yeah, they are.
They are instant gratification. They are not long-term happiness.
No.
And that's the shift that's happening in this world, is moving away from that instant addictive need of material stuff into how can we help humanity, which is why we share all the things we do, like the company I get my water kit from. I share them as much as I can. All the beautiful companies that we recommend of amazing products, we recommend them because we know they're going to help people find the solutions that they're not going to get sitting in the doctor's office, because the doctor's office goes like this with their fingers.
I have no regrets either, and I think that's very, very important. We all make mistakes. We have.
You know what?
Make some
I read an amazing book once called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by a lady called Bronnie Ware. Bronnie, not
Okay.
Bonnie, Bronnie Ware. The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And it was a beautiful book recommended to me. And the lady is a palliative care nurse, and she is dealing with end of life care, obviously. And she is an alcoholic artist musician. Sort of. Doesn't really know if she is. And it was like reading about myself, because I'm a musician, a creative artist, and a recovering alcoholic. So it was just amazing reading this book. And I think the last 2 chapters, I think I just bawled my eyes out, because it was like, bang, you know, the emotion right there. But what she talked about was all the people getting to the end of their lives saying, I wish I hadn't worked as much. I wish I'd loved more. I wish I'd traveled more. You know, there were these 5 things. I can't remember what the other 2 were. But it was just so devastating to see how limited people had lived their lives. And there is an unlimited amount of abundance on this planet right now. There is an unlimited amount of love on this planet right now. And this is why we have a duty to share it with people. And I'll bring it, we probably need to finish soon, so I'm going to bring it back to my favorite book. This is called The Go-Giver, and this is by Bob Berg. I know Bob personally. He's a beautiful, beautiful man, and John David Mann. And this is what we have to be, is go-givers in life, because most people are go-getters. All they want to do is get stuff. I want to get the new car, get the new holiday. We have to give in life, and that is what all of this message is about, from all of us to the world, I suppose, is what are we giving of ourselves? Is it time? Are we giving our time to somebody? Are we giving our energy? You know, that can be a good and a bad thing. Are we giving of our knowledge? And that's the bit that I love the most, is when we have knowledge, and it may be hard to hear, because there were times when we didn't know what we know now. And that when we knew what we know now, then we knew it, and we can't unknow it. So we were in that same position that some people out there are in right now themselves, and we can't be harsh on them. We can't berate them for that. We can only share what we share with love. You know, this morning I saw a post from somebody saying something about Oprah. And how she just adores this woman, and blah, 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 blah. And she's got an enormous following. And I just sent her a message, and I said, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's some stuff going on in the world. Do you know about this? Because if I didn't share this with you, I'm probably sure you do know. But if you don't, and I don't think she really grasped what's happening. And this is somebody who knows all stuff about the world, has lived in America, now lives in Spain. And I thought, do you know what? Initially, this is where we could stop ourselves and say, oh, I better not message her because she'll think I'm weird. But if I didn't share it with her, and she found out that I didn't say something that could potentially damage her reputation, I wouldn't be doing what I need to do as a person by giving that knowledge.
This plays into something that I was told a few weeks back about the second wave.
Right.
The second wave of COVID-19, of deaths, will be caused by people who failed to get their operations in March, April and May.
Right.
There'll be a spike in the number of deaths. They'll all go down as COVID-19 deaths.
Right.
People who commit suicide, and they find out that their friends and celebrity friends weren't what they thought they were.
Right.
And people who die of a heart attack when they find out.
Yes.
And this is what the COVID-19 second lockdown, second wave will be to cover up. And they'll all go down as COVID-19 deaths. And one just interesting point I missed earlier on. Somebody sent me this morning. They don't know which strain of COVID it was, but it was found in the water systems in Barcelona last year.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
So, I'm waiting for all the documentation. They contacted me this morning and said, Charlie, they found strains of the COVID virus that came through the water system in Barcelona last year.
And this is part of their covenant. We will make their water toxic. We will make their food toxic. You know, this is why, you know, we have an alkaline and acid water machine at home that, you know, purifies our water when we drink it. It's why we,
Is it Gangan Water? Is that what it is?
Kangen, yeah.
Kangen.
You have a Kangen.
With the lady who owns that company the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you see, they have every single bedside in Japanese hospitals has one of those machines.
Yeah.
And they are, you don't see overweight people in Japan, rarely. I mean, when McDonald's started coming, now you do. But, the majority of that country are very small, very delicate, very fit, very slim people. They don't have diabetes and obesity and all of these issues.
When I met my wife, I was 117, 118 kilos, whatever that is, 17, 18 stone, I think. I've now dropped down to below 100 kilos. I used to introduce her as Fitty and me as Fatty, or elegant and elegant, one of the two. Because she's 50 kilos, she's like 6.5 stone, but she was.
Well, that's me. I'm like 7.5 stone. Yeah,
right.
But I'm only 5 foot. I'm tiny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she was an international gymnast for 10 years, and then she was in the circus for 10 years after that.
Right,
that's in her DNA.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
She's looked after me like nothing else, and she's got me healthy. And she's not, one of these that she hasn't gone on at me going, oh, you've got to stop this, stop. She's quite willing. When I met her, she didn't even drink anything, not alcohol. And she took these tablets for iron to build. And I said, why don't you just have a little bit of red wine and maybe once a week just have a little bit of red meat just to build up your immune system? And she started doing that, and then the iron tablets weren't necessary anymore.
Right. And it's interesting.
I've got to ask a question. Has she taught you how to do the double backflip?
I've attempted it, and it nearly knocked some sense in. No, she's. I
love that element that you say that she just encouraged you and these things. And when I met Chris, he would scratch all the time. He'd be itching, and he used to eat a ridiculous amount of bread. I mean, bread in the morning, sandwich at lunch, a baguette in the evening. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I'm intolerant to gluten.
Okay.
And I kept saying to him, look, why don't you cut this out? And as I've always said I never wanted to be a naggy girlfriend, naggy wife now. But when you have that thought process, it's like an earworm. It goes around and around. And that's what we're doing now, is just helping people to think a little, does this make sense or doesn't it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, what can I do about it? And that's what I said to Chris in the end was, everything we do, and it's the same message with what we're sharing now, is everything is baby steps. If we try and slap people in the face with everything, they will just have a heart attack. I mean, they will. So it's baby steps. And for me, when I took on too much information, I went to a very dark place. And I know Chris was very worried about me for a good 2 or 3 weeks because I couldn't function as a human being. It was very difficult to get out of my malaise that I was in. And so, anybody that's looking at information, please just take your time, read a bit, go away from it for 2 or 3 days, go love on somebody, go hug them, go be with your family. And then when your brain has taken some time to let the cogs go around, come back and look again. Because if you overwhelm yourself, it's damaging to your brain cells. It really is. And that was what was damaging to Chris's body, is if you cut out everything straight away, we now don't eat meat, we don't eat wheat, we don't drink milk, we're dairy free, but we've had to do all those things in baby steps, in little incremental changes to allow the body and the brain the time to change, and the habits. These are habits that are ingrained in us.
The easiest way for me to lose weight was to do my walk every day.
Yeah.
If I did my walk, I do 10 kilometers every morning. When I do that, I don't get the urge to eat, whereas if I'm sat on the sofa, I pick.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. We're just doing it step by step. We mentioned it earlier about when you're trying to, like being a farmer's boy from Suffolk, herding sheep. If you try and push the sheep, they go everywhere.
Right.
You never get them together. But if you just have a little whistle and bring them along with you,
right,
gently,
right,
then they'll follow you.
Yeah.
The minute you try and force them, you'll never catch them.
Interestingly, we were talking about sheep so we have there are some churches locally where we go, and we've never been big church goers, but we've come into learning things about the church recently, and I've been doing some singing for them.
Good. So
we had a service, and today we're outside because we can worship outside and we can congregate, and we're all singing in the car park of the local sports field, right? Okay. There's probably 20 of us, maybe. No more than that, and we're all socially distanced and singing. It's really lovely. And one of the themes today was about hope. Really, that was our theme. But we talked a lot about sheep and how you know, when Jesus was outside, he was mainly sharing his word outside. He wasn't in a church. He wasn't in a building. He was sharing his word outside, and so were his disciples. And then the sheep, you know, the people. And of course, there's this phrase at the moment when and I don't use it because I don't like it, but people are saying, oh, the sheeple haven't woken up yet. And the sheeple, the people, you know, there are people out there who don't know what they don't know yet, and they are suddenly waking up and realizing, right, I can look at this, I can follow this person and see what they're saying and make up my own mind. And that's all the sheep do, is they're going, right, we're going to go over here, and if they're pushed, I'm going to rebuke and say, no, I don't want to go there. But if we just gently guide, and they will follow. It's like the Pied Piper, isn't it? And that's not to say that we're all lemmings and we're all going to jump over the hedge and the cliff together. But when we lead by example, when we share authentically ourselves, people can see it. And that's why I've had messages recently, in days and weeks gone by, of people messaging me saying, thank you for opening my eyes to this. Thank you for sharing. Please don't stop. Don't ignore that person saying something to you.
Right.
Keep sharing what you're sharing, because it's really changed my life. It's changed my family. It's changed my relationship.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking about my children in a different way and how they school.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do.
And Charlie, that's why what you're doing is so valuable. And like I said, the other platforms I've been on, because you are putting tools out there, people to watch and learn and take it on for themselves. You know, this has been an interestingly long conversation, which has been an absolute joy to be part of. And of course, not all people will like all things they've heard, but they might just take one of the tools that, you know, each of us have shared, and it might just have a little knock-on effect. And then as soon as you've gone through that door, you're on the other side of it, and then other opportunities of knowledge come your way. And it's as simple as that.
Totally. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We'll have to do it again. If we can get the message out to people. I've often said I might be right, I might be wrong, but this is my view.
Yeah. And do you know what, we're the same?
Based on what I know.
Yeah.
And based on my trust in God that he's led me the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never said I was right about anything, but I do feel I have a duty to share what I see. Yeah. And I think that all of my own personal research, my own personal journey is attached to this, because it's about following the money. And we know that all the control processes are all there because of the money. So we, you know, from anything we've talked about to many other things that we haven't even talked about, like, for example, you know, why are narcotics flooded on certain streets, etc. It's all about following the money, right? So, but my personal final message would literally be that we've been pushed into a corner, and you know what happens when that happens. You know, we are a race of you know, we exist. We're having a human experience. We know that. Okay, we've got other things to do, but the very nature of humanity is that when we are pushed in that corner, and finally we see what's happened to us, they got to watch out, because that covenant said it. They can't find out where there will be nowhere for us to run, and there isn't. It's unfolding, and it is a positive pandemic of positivity. That's the word.
From me to you, thank you very much for joining us, as Donald Trump calls us, digital warriors who are standing up for what's true. I really appreciate your support. And,
well, we appreciate you giving us the chance to share what we know. It's
brilliant. No, we'll do it again.
Okay,
absolutely.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.